Welcome to the Transforming Leadership Podcast with author and speaker Dr. Steve Steff. I'm Jim Brangenberg, your host for the day. For more information about Dr. Steff and how the Transforming Leadership team builds effectiveness in leaders, please look online at tleadership.com. That's tleadership.com. Now let's join Dr. Steff in the studio. Hi, I'm Jim Brangenberg, and I'm joined by Dr. Steve Steff, the founder of Transforming Leadership. We're so excited you're joining us today as we're going through a series of Transforming Leadership Proverbs, sayings and truisms that the Transforming Leadership team have uncovered that are very common within the maturity growth of any transforming leader. Dr. Steff, these are fun, the ones that your team have come up with today. This is a good one. I can't wait to kind of dig into this a little bit. Here's the proverb of the day. If you want to deepen your impact, narrow your focus.
Yes, good. Great proverb. We love it. Difficult to communicate in the time that we have. We're going to take a swing at that. Even more difficult, quite frankly, to implement. But there is no question that it's a solid proverb. It's a truism because it's true. Yeah, absolutely.
So I know that we want to break it up into, again, if you want to deepen your impact, narrow your focus. Let's talk about that in coaching. How is that successful in coaching?
Good. That's my context, obviously. So in coaching, invariably when I get a new coaching client, whether they're an executive team or whether they're an individual executive, I ask them what is it that you would like to accomplish in the next year to 3 years? That's a standard question for us. Behaviorally, what is it that you would like to accomplish, and what would you like to do? What would you like to become better at over the next 6 months, 9 months, 12 months during our initial coaching engagement? And work on that, think that through. Don't give me a quick response. That's a little bit of homework, and come back to me with what you want to do there. And it's not unusual, since I have high performing executives and they're pretty data driven, that they may come back with a page, 2 page, even 3 pages of things that they want to accomplish, that they want to get better at, that they want me to help them with. I said, boy, that's great. Now let's take those 3 pages and let's narrow those 3 pages down, Jim, to if I could get better at these 3 things, these 3 skills. I'm working now as a coach, not as a consultant. So there's some distinctions there that we can go into if you want. If that leader could get better at these 3 skills, that would significantly improve his effectiveness. So the first session or 2 or maybe even 3 are spent with the executive, with the leader, trying to help them understand, hold it, if you could improve these 3 skills, it would impact almost everything on your list. So exactly. We're not out here to check things off the list. We are here to become more effective in these 3 things. Now, of those 3 things, I'll talk with my client, which of these would you like to, or at the most, which 2 of these would you like to focus on first? And it's not unusual at all that they'll come back and say, well, that's a pretty narrow focus. It is a pretty narrow focus, but it's got a deep and significant impact on the organization and on your effectiveness. So let's narrow that focus to have the greatest impact on the work that you're doing. So that's what we're doing as a coach. There's no way we're going to start out with 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 different initiatives, because then we will be less than effective on all of them. If I can change one significant behavior over the course of 6 months, or help you change one significant behavior over the course of 6 months, I have significantly impacted your effectiveness as a leader.
I mean, doesn't it, Steve, go back to that saying that we all heard when we were growing up? Jack of all trades, master of none.
Master of none. Isn't that the truth? I'll go back 45 years in my career, back to the boat business years ago. We were hiring mechanics, and I'd interview a mechanic and ask him what he worked on. He worked on everything. In that case, you need to go someplace else, because you're not the guy I need. The guy I need, I want a specialist. You and I both have had a couple of medical things, that you're an organ donor. I just can't tell you how much I admire that. I had a little medical challenge in the last couple of years. I didn't want to go to my GP to get that taken care of. I wanted to go to the best, not even the best oncologist. I wanted to go to the best oncologist for my specific type of cancer, and I wanted to go to the surgeon that worked on throats, period. That's it. I wanted the specialist for what my need was, because I wanted to know that I got absolutely the best care. Not the best care that that guy was capable of giving me, but the best care regardless of the person. So find, identify the need as far as the medical, identify the need first, and then identify the person to do it, right?
So in coaching, it's helping people narrow down to just one or two things as we're helping. So, and a lot of times as a leader, we're coaching our direct reports. We're trying to lead them down a path that to make them a better leader, to help
Exactly.
transform their leadership. This is, I mean, it's a process. Instead of trying to use the shotgun approach, we're going to shoot out there. We're going to try to hit as many things as we can. No, we're just like, we're focusing in. So let's shift that to our leadership. So as a leader within our company, so often we've had our board of directors give us a lot of things on our plate. We already had things on our plate. How does this truism, this proverb, if you want to deepen your impact, narrow your focus, how does that work in leadership as I run
Yeah.
my company?
Yeah, that's great. And we'll continue to use the word coaching, because as I'm running my company, if I'm a CEO or if I'm a VP or if I'm a director, all of my direct reports have a plethora of accountabilities for me. So I'm not letting them off of the hook on their various accountabilities. They're still accountable for all of these outcomes or behaviors or results, or however you want to define them. But if I really want to uh, significantly impact their effectiveness, if I really want to significantly impact their performance, I can't focus on that broad thing. If I have a director, if I'm a VP, I have a director that reports to me, and I really want to turn that director into high performance, I need to really focus on one or two, or at the very most, three different issues at a time, and make them the best, make them an all-star of those two or three issues. And then we can move on to some other issues. But let's focus on those, really focus like a laser on those, and make them all stars in those, then go to the other.
Well, it all goes back to training up our successor. I mean,
Right.
we're investing in these people in
Yeah.
it, and you can't, I mean, in your own personal life, when you've got an issue, you're not fixing all your issues at one time. As we mature, we're dealing with one issue after another, but they're never all at the same time, because we'd never get anything done. We get
That's
frustrated,
right.
we get overwhelmed. And isn't that what happens so often in organizations, Steve?
Yeah.
People have so many things that they're told to focus on. It looks like this. But if it would just look like this, they're like, I could do that. But when it looks like
Well,
this, you're like, I get overwhelmed, like I get nowhere.
yeah, you and I are both voracious readers, and one of the best books that I've read on this is Four Disciplines of Execution. The Four Disciplines of Execution. It is a must read, and the phrase that the authors use in the Four Disciplines of Execution is the whirlwind. So your day-to-day job is the whirlwind. There is no question about, there are not several, but perhaps dozens of things that you're responsible for on a day-to-day basis. That's just the job. That is the job. But if you really want to develop the organization, if you want to move the organization to a much higher level within your industry, for instance, if you really significantly want to increase sales, then the Four Disciplines of Execution refers to that as a WIG. You identify a wildly important goal, one wildly important goal. And then every department within that context of that wildly important goal, they've got the whirlwind. They've got what they're responsible for doing on a day-to-day basis. But to achieve this one wildly important goal, that department is going to identify what is the one thing that I could do that would have the greatest impact toward achieving that wildly important goal. So on top of, or along with the whirlwind, what we're doing every day, we've still got to live, we've still got to do our job, we still have all these outcomes that we're responsible for. On top of that whirlwind, I'm sorry, that department has their own WIG, their own wildly important goal, and they're focused like a laser on accomplishing that one goal. If they do that and each department fulfills on that, then by golly, at the end of the year, the organization has fulfilled on their wildly important goal, and they've gotten something accomplished that they never thought possible. And they've gotten something accomplished that wouldn't have been possible if they had just factored it into the whirlwind and the stuff that they're doing. It has to become a priority. They have to be focused on that like a laser, not at the expense of the whirlwind, but on top of, in addition to the whirlwind.
All right. So again, the truism for the day, the proverb of the transforming leadership proverb of the day is, if you want to deepen your impact, narrow your focus. So let's talk about that truism in strategy, because Steve, you often see, I mean, let's just say one night you're watching TV, and if you're like me, when one show goes to commercial, you flip to a different channel so you can go to another. I just hate watching commercials. Okay, that's terrible. But that's just, I don't like watching commercials. I want to watch action or whatever. And then, but you see the same commercial on 5 different stations, all playing at the same time. You're like, they're everywhere. They're like they're on MTV, they're on the Hallmark Channel, they're maybe on a news channel, and they're on Motor Trend TV, all at the same time. Like, well, who is your audience? I mean, in strategy, Steve, if you want to deepen your impact, you got to narrow your focus. I mean, this has to do with, in so many, explain this, but I mean, I think I get it. It's like, if you're going to do something, you got to do it really, really well. Don't just shotgun approach. Never really works.
It doesn't. You gave the solution. Who's your audience? Not just what are you trying to accomplish. Well, you're trying to sell more widgets, but you've got to first identify who are your widget buyers and where are they, and what is the most laser focused way of communicating to that audience. We don't have a unlimited reservoir of cash to do that shotgun thing, right? So what's the highest and best use of my resources? The highest best use of my resources is to first clearly identify the outcome for which I'm looking, and then clearly identify the audience, and then clearly identify the needs and the locations of that audience to laser focus, use those resources, use that money, if that's what the resource is, to focus on that. If I can do that and I'm successful, and I was successful in identifying the location and the audience, etc., then I'm going to hit the goal.
So you just laid out like this beautiful roadmap. First, you have to narrow your focus. Where are we going to go?
What are you trying to accomplish?
Right. And then you determine your outcomes. This is what we're looking for. And then that really defines and lays a solid foundation for significant impact, because you've taken the time to narrow the focus, determine your outcomes, and then all of a sudden your impact is significantly greater because you took the time up front.
Right. So if you begin by, begin with the end in mind. Go back to another Covey book from, gee whiz, decades ago. What was that? 7 Habits. Remember the 7 Habits book? Begin with the end in mind. So you identify first what is it you're hoping to accomplish. Then you might then take the step of identifying what are the moves that we can make to lead toward this accomplishment. That's fine, but you're still narrowing it down. You're not just working harder. You're identifying the specific things that you can accomplish or implement that will point toward that goal. But my recommendation would be, if you've identified 10 of those, well, let's break those down to the 5, or maybe the 4, or maybe even the 3 that would have the most significant impact toward that goal, and then direct our resources toward those 3. Invariably, if there are 10 items, 10 functions that would have an impact toward that goal, invariably there will be 2 or 3 that will have a significantly greater impact. Throw your resources toward those 2 or 3 and grab all the ground you can with those 2 or 3.
And a lot of times,
far more effective than spreading resources over all 10 of those and all of them performing at a B+ level. Focus on 2 of them, 3 of them, have that perform on an A+ level, and you get significantly better ROI.
And almost always, Steve, when you have that focus on those 2 or 3, it almost assuredly takes care of the other 7 or 8 that were on that list.
Yeah.
Or minimizes their significance anymore.
That's exactly right. We come to realize that at least 2 or 3 or 4 of those other 7 they may not have had that big an impact to begin with.
Hmm.
And if we find out otherwise, we can either shift or we can do them next. But do not try to do them all at the same time, because it spreads your resources too thin. I don't care if we're talking about the individual or the organization. You have limited resources. Use those resources. The highest and best use of those resources is always laser focused.
Thank you, Dr. Steve Steff, for really helping us understand the Transforming Leadership Proverb. If you want to deepen your impact, narrow your focus. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Jeff.
And for you, our listener, really grateful that you tuned in today, and want to just encourage you to check us out online, tleadership.com, tleadership.com. We'd love to hear from you. Lots of ways to contact us. Please take some time. Let us know how these podcasts are inspiring you, impacting you, whether you've got some feedback for us. What are you hearing us say? And we'd love to have that feedback from you. So until next time, we'll look forward to digging deeper. And that ends our discussion for today. Thanks for listening to the Transforming Leadership Podcast with author and speaker, Dr. Steve Steff. For more information on how Dr. Steff and the Transforming Leadership team can help you become a more effective leader, please look online at tleadership.com. That's tleadership.com. Until next time, remember, building effectiveness in leaders starts with the transformation of your heart towards your people.